Hey, I am live. Hi, my name is Rebecca. This is Free Tarot Fridays with me, Rebecca from Clear Tarot NYC. This is a weekly show, I always want to say. I'm just going to commit to it. This is a weekly show that I do where I come on here, over here on Instagram at the Tarot Philosopher, over here on Facebook and Clear Tarot YouTube, at long URLs that I don't remember what they are. And so I've really got to get my marketing together. Just being really real. And I do this every week. I come in here and I chat a little bit about something tarot related or chat like my business related. And then I do a free tarot reading, mini tarot reading for somebody I haven't read for before. If you would like that to be you, please drop a question in the chat. I will read you next time. Or just if you're watching this later, send me a question in the chat and say, I want to be one of your free readings and I will schedule it. This was a cool month because enough people asked that I actually had like a schedule of like someone last Friday and someone before that. And like, we had a good thing going. And like I always say, I started doing this because, tarot is an art. It's a folk art, as I think of it. There's a million people doing it, probably just in your building. And everybody does it a different way. And I prefer just showing people what it is to me rather than doing it. And today I'm thinking about a couple of things. One is that, no, I think it's all one thing. If you're anything like me, there are certain truths that when you hear them, you're like, yes, that is true for everyone else, but somehow it won't apply to me. And one of them, and it's usually things like, if you keep practicing, blah, 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 whatever it is, things will change. And then when it doesn't work in 5 minutes, you're like, well, it probably just won't work for me. I'm thinking of a couple of versions of it. But in particular, I'm reminded in my tarot practice this week of the more you do something, the stronger the muscle gets. And I know that that's true. And I remember I didn't do this for many years. I've been doing this for many years, but I also took a big chunk of time off. I had conflicted feelings about it. As I tell everyone at the beginning of the reading, I'm not a psychic. I'm not a fortune teller. I think it's something else than that I just won't go on about because that's not the theme of today. But I did notice when I was in my 20s and I'm fussing with my hair because I just came from the gym and I did not fix anything for you. I have filters over here on Instagram, but I do not on Facebook. It's just really real over here, you guys. And when I was first doing a lot of readings daily, when I was working out of a New Age bookstore in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was, seeing clients all day long, and I started to notice this phenomenon of like, yes, I am not a psychic, and I actually don't think that's the point of the reading. And I like to focus on interpreting the cards for you because I think they're magical enough on their own. But the more I did it and the more I did it, the more I would have what I call slightly glibly psychic moments, right? Moments of intuition of things I just know, things that happen, and just generally kind of like the readings got easier and like kind of lubricated and faster. And that was just something I always carried with me. And I thought, intuition is a muscle like anything else. And the more you kind of exercise it, the stronger it gets. And, there's a couple of things in my life that this applies to. Like this year committed to exercising a little more. And I've been walking a lot. In particular, this month, I've been walking an hour a day. And I noticed on my way to the gym this morning, I have a little app that tells me how fast I'm walking. And I like to listen to it because it's a soothing voice that chimes in every mile that lets you know it's another mile and how fast you're going. And she chimed in and let me know. And I was like, I've taken a minute off my mile without trying because I'm not walking every day to try to get faster. I'm just walking every day. But because I'm walking every day, a minute dropped off my mile. And then I got to the gym and I was practicing and I was practicing at the gym and I picked up a weight that I always pick up and I was like, I can pick up a larger weight. And it's just because I've been picking up that first weight for a while. And I know this is not like a surprise to anyone. It's not rocket science, but somehow when it's actually happening to you, you're like, oh, that is true. Oh, that is a thing. Anyway, it's on my mind today because I did a corporate gig last night, which is something that I do and have been loving doing since I brought tarot back into my life on purpose, I guess, and started telling people about it and coming out of the tarot closet. And I have this business now called Clear Tarot NYC, cleartarotnyc.com for readings, or just send me a message and say, hey, I want a reading. And I've been seeing regular clients one-on-one in my house and on Zoom and doing slightly longer, more in-depth readings for them. And I've been doing parties and events, which I have loved, by the way, just love so much. They're all so different, always fun. And I did a corporate event last night, which I can not tell you about because I signed an NDA when I went in, which should tell you something about the vibe of that party. But I can also tell you about it from my perspective. First of all, something else that happens, I think, when you practice this a lot is like, what is it but looking for patterns, right? We're looking for patterns and stories, and then we get very good at seeing patterns and stories. And my day yesterday happened to start on my walk with my listening to the daily podcast, the news podcast. And there was a whole story about recovering from the pandemic and remote work and hybrid work and what is that and what companies are doing to kind of convince people to come back to the office, and how some companies are doing these really like elaborate parties and incentives. And then that night, right, I did a party that was like, wow, this is, it was a very lavish, large building in New York. And there was like music bumping and food and like 2 levels of party. And I somehow was in like what I called immediately my glass case of emotion, that was in somebody's completely transparent office, but it was the only place that wasn't really loud because of the music. And I was just like a tarot reader on display, like sitting there waiting for people to come, but they had a sign-up sheet and half people didn't show up, whatever. And I suddenly was like, oh my God, this is exactly what they were talking about on the daily this morning. That's so odd. I just wanted to share that with you. And I actually, at some point I was like, this is like the good place when everybody gets to heaven and there's just a party that goes on all the time. And I said that to someone, and I don't think that they thought that was flattering. Long story short, I think I'm beating around the bush because what I want to talk about, I feel weird about, which is that I was in the middle of doing like my 7th reading, and I had a psychic moment, TM, which is again, not the point of these readings, but it happens sometimes. And I realize that there's that thing of like, when you're a reader, you're like, when do I say that something? When do I not say something? I often will not say something if I feel like it doesn't serve. But anyway, this was, long story short, I looked at the first 3 cards and went, there's going to be a death in this person's family. They were not from America. And I was like, I think people are going to be going in your family, going to be going back to visit sooner than you think because of this. I didn't think it was anybody immediate. But also, there's so many things going on in my head when that happens. It's like, first of all, who the hell are you? Stop talking. What do you know? But also this very strong, and I think this is part of how you can recognize what an intuition is that it feels calm. It doesn't feel emotional or agitating. And it also feels like inevitable, like you can't not say it. It didn't freak me out till later, and like, I'm a big fan of the tarot cliche of like, the death card is not a death, right? It's not usually a death. But like, sometimes it is, And when I got home, I really had to sit with it for a while. And now I'm just telling you because this is my, I don't know, personal tarot diary. I'm going to edit this down before I post it later. But it came back to me that just like walking for an hour every day and just like lifting a tiny amount of weight frequently, eventually, inevitably, without your trying, the muscle gets stronger. And then you have new challenges to deal with. And I guess this does tie into the reading that I'm about to do, because I'm reading, let me segue, for Ginny today, who is asking if she should keep putting effort into the same artistic project she's been working on for years or go in another direction. And wait, there was a connection. What is this connection? Nope, lost. I'm going to edit this later. It's going to come back to me. But I think when I read that question, it made me think of 2 things. It made me think of my rule about shoulds, which is like, whenever somebody comes to me with the question, should I, whatever, I always want to be like, time out, and let's remove the word should from our vocabulary. Because as I've said before, I think should I kind of takes, first of all, it gives all your power away. Then you're asking me to tell you what you want and what to do. And I don't really know, because part of this question is like, what do you want? Like, I'm trying to remove it from my vocabulary too. Whenever I go, should I do this? I try to say, okay, well, if I couldn't use the word should, I would have to say, what do I really want? What do I want to do? What feels good to me? What feels right? And engage my suit of wands, right? My intuition, and feel my way through it. And it's funny, I was thinking about the word feeling as like, it's not always emotion feeling, it's feeling our way, sensing our way. And when we remove the word should, we come up against more of a layer of truth about like, what am I doing because for some other, like, we just get clear on the reasons we're doing what we're doing, we're not doing what we're not doing, right? And often should is Should is a word that makes other people's opinions more important, whoever they are, even if they're like imaginary people. I'm going to keep working on this project because someone else would approve of that, or someone else would not approve of it. Or I want to, but I don't know if it's okay that I want what I want. Like it's like a barrier we put up between ourselves and our essential truth and what we already know. So part of me wants to say to Ginny that she already knows what to do next. And I'd like to remove the word should from it, because she knows if there's energy that's leading her in one direction or energy that's leading her in another direction. What happens is that like our social stuff comes in to interrupt and be like, well, have you thought about it? And have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? I don't know what I was going to say. That's really funny. I think if the theme of today is the more we do something, the more the muscle gets strengthened, I think that's also applies to our should. The more we approach everything from a question of like, what should I do? The more we kind of like develop this muscle of checking in with like sometimes it's imaginary, sometimes it's real, an imaginary jury, instead of staying with like the real questions, which are like, what are my values? Is this in line with my values? Is this going to get me to where I really want to be? How do I feel about it? Do I even know how I feel about it? Someone very wise, a friend of mine said to me recently, sometimes we have to let go and become still and take our hands off the wheel in order to get what we want. But sometimes we have to let go and become still in order to even know what we want. We have to get very still and let that rise to the surface. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and we're going to segue into the part of this where I'm going to do a mini reading for Ginny. And this is the part where I also say, if you're watching this later, hello, I'm Rebecca. If you want to be someone who I do a mini reading for on this little weekly show, please just let me know by putting your name in the chat. If you know that you want a full-length reading with me sometime, you can book with me at cleartarotnyc.com or just by reaching out and being like, hey, I want to book a reading for myself or my friend. I've been doing a lot of gift readings lately, which is really fun. And we'll just see where we go from here. I'm going to reverse engineer this because I thought it was funny that I had my psychic moment right after I gave my spiel about how I'm not a psychic. And now I'm going to give the spiel about how I'm not a psychic because it's rare. But I don't think it really takes a psychic to answer this question. So, okay, Tarot, we're asking a question for Ginny. We want to know if she should keep working on the book. Should, in quotes. And we'll just see what it has to say to us. I like to tell people that tarot does not have words on it that say yes or no. So it's going to talk to us in a different language, but let's see what's up. I mean, the thing is, I feel like you're in a place of satisfaction right now. Like the first thing that I'm seeing is the Queen of Cups, and she's like a woman who knows what she wants. And again, it's that question of desire. It's like, let's take the should and throw it out the window and be like, what feels good? I think we think of that as kind of like a frivolous question. We in our culture, especially, we're like feeling good is superficial, and like you can't trust it. And like pleasure is like, no pain, no gain, and pleasure isn't the motivator. But I actually think that that's like, it's kind of a really good barometer, what feels good. Sometimes I like to say what feels good and what feels like you're beating your head against a wall. Another friend of mine said to me recently, sometimes the path of least resistance is a good path, because there's no freaking resistance. So I don't know. I think you're in a place of serenity, like this woman, the Queen of Cups here is a person who knows what she likes, what she wants, and is sort of like in a place of control. Control is the wrong word, but is in a good space with her emotions, is feeling good about her life. And maybe we don't want to mess with that. I do think because this Knight of Wands is popping up that we're having some like urge to make bold new choices and go in new directions. I mean, whenever that night, there's a lot of knights at the party last night. There were a lot of young people, a lot of people who were like, I want to, prove myself and do something new. And like, there was this kind of intellectual desire for stimulation. And I also want to talk about black and white thinking here for a second, because there isn't really, sometimes these should questions also like, it isn't really about like, should I do this or do this? Like you could go do something new for a while and the book's not going anywhere, So, yeah, I think, well, there's something I want to say that the tarot always talks about a million things, but because we have a Queen of Cups and a King of Cups, I actually think that there's, it's hard for artists to like remember that there's other things in life besides that. But like, there is a suggestion that maybe like for a little while this year, it's going to be more about like you and your partner, having a meeting of the minds and doing things together. And like, like there's work is not the word that I mean, but like sometimes like I just got mad at myself for not working on my play for a long time. And then I was like, actually, my life this year was more about relationships, building them and keeping them. I'm leaning towards in my reading, um, you doing something new. Because of two things. And again, like there are no shoulds. I'm going to say a bunch of stuff. You're going to take what you like and leave the rest. But I also, because when this friend of mine shows up, I always say, hey, let's pause, and pull over and see what's going on. Because I think if this is in your immediate future, right, we've got issues of, uh, not great choices. And like whatever your poison is, pick your poison. How do you like to screw things up for yourself? Is it partnering with terrible people? Is it some kind of ism, some kind of addiction? Is it a bad habit? And whatever it is, we're coming up right against it. And I think there might be a suggestion in this reading to me that part of your devil is beating your head against a wall, and is doing the should dance and pushing yourself to do things for not quite the right reason. There's a little sprinkle of perfectionism in here. And also just because I see that this is immediate past, like this guy, sometimes people are like, what does that card mean? And I'm like, what does it look like? Does this look fun? So we're coming out of a time period of really kind of like carrying too much. I think there's like, sometimes I look at this and say it's too many projects, but I actually think it's like, it's just too much, too many options, the weight of like trying to make a creative life. And then what we have coming up here is like this big force. And again, the major forces aren't things we do, they're things that happen to us. But I think we have choices about how to react to them. And when we come up against like this stuff, we can choose to dance with him, or we can choose to be like, okay, I see you. Thanks so much. I'm going to pull over and refuel my car. I think it's more about like, refilling the well right now and like trying whatever feels like new and kind of exciting. Because I just think if nothing else, like sometimes I'm like, oh, the devil was my year card one year and nothing bad happened. But if nothing else, this is not conducive to good moods, So like, it's like you in a bad mood, even if it's nothing more drastic than that. I think there's also a little bit of, hanging on to what works. I mean, I saw this guy a lot last night, you as you are right now, the Four of Pentacles, stinginess, control, sort of clutching onto like what I've already got. Like, it's like, I better cut my losses and like, I've already got this and this is working. And so like, I can't really afford to let go and do something new because I might lose something. There's financial anxiety too, I think in here. And a desire like you as you appear to others, industrious, hardworking. I'm building the house I want to live in. I'm building the life I want, but you're doing it with other people. You're a good collaborator. I don't know if there's a sense of letting someone down if you don't keep working on it. One of the imaginary people or one of the real people. I'm not sure what it is. But again, I don't think we have to worry so much about that because you've got a lot of integrity. You're a person people want to work with. You actually do what you say you're going to do, which is gold. I just think you could be a little more generous with yourself. I think it's like, again, it's not either or. It's not like I either work on this or I do something else. I think it could be I do something else and I come back to it. I do whatever this is leading me toward, whatever your intellectual curiosity is giving you, and whatever creates a sense of freedom right now is good for the book. Sitting and doing the same thing and banging your head against a wall is not good for it. And it's going to get you into this territory. It's your only major card in the whole spread. And so I think this is like where my attention wants to go. We're coming up against whatever your particular devil is. And you have a choice right now to be like, I'm going to do the same thing I've always done when I am afflicted with this, or I'm going to maybe try to do a different thing. I've come to feel like I am friends with this card because like I say, I always think of it as like, the check engine light comes on or the empty light comes on in the car and we got to go refill the tank. So for what it's worth, that is what I see. The final outcome card here is like potentially a lot of emotional overwhelm. And I want to caution you against, like, again, I think with this question, I want you to go back to the like core and be like, what feels good and what do I want? What lights me up? Because when I see this Nine of Cups, I just think, oh, this person has trouble telling the difference between their emotions and somebody else's emotions. And you wind up feeling things for other people and doing things that actually belong to them. And so we don't need to go there. We can simplify and pare things down. And I remember that you are the person who actually knows what you should do more than anybody else. But I also, because I see that King of Cups in there, I think there's strength to be drawn from the partnership here. I think there's nothing wrong with like the focus going to love for a little while or to relationships. And I also think, yeah, whatever your intellectual curiosity is and whatever feels like freedom is actually the right move. Okay, so I always talk for longer than I think I'm going to talk in a supposedly mini reading. But that is Ginny's reading for this week. Hope there was something in there that was helpful. As I always say, take what you like, throw out the rest. My name is Rebecca. This is Clear Tarot NYC. ClearTarotNYC.com is my website. The tarot. Oh, it was helpful. I'm glad, Ginny. The Tarot Philosopher on Instagram. Please drop me a note if you would like to be the free reading. If I haven't read for you before and you want to be the free reading on one of these weekly Friday things, I'm here every Friday at noon. You can just ask me the question. You don't have to be here. I will just do the reading and you can watch it later. If you would like to book regular readings with me, you can do so by dropping me a note. I am doing parties and events through gigsalad.com and through thebash.com. And I just got some kind of sticker from the Bash that's like best of the Bash this year for whatever that's worth. It's been a pleasure. I really love what I do. And I'll see you guys next week.